There's a white powder sitting on the shelf of every grocery store in America that kills black mold on contact. It costs less than $1 per application. It does not just remove the mold you can see. It changes the chemistry of the surface so mold cannot grow back. Not for days, not for weeks, permanently. Military barracks used it during World War II to protect soldiers from fungal lung infections in the Pacific Theater. Hospitals in the 1950s documented its antifungal properties in peer-reviewed research. Indigenous civilizations along the Silk Road traded it for centuries as a preservative and purifier. And then an industry worth billions of dollars made sure you would never hear about it again. They did not stop recommending it because it failed. They stopped because it worked too well. A powder that costs pennies and eliminates the problem forever cannot generate repeat customers. And what cannot generate repeat customers cannot sustain a billion-dollar industry. This is the story of borax, the mineral that protected civilizations for thousands of years. And that the mold remediation industry buried, so you would keep calling them back. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. If you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what they spent billions making sure you would never find. The story begins in a place so hostile that most men who entered it never came out. Death Valley, California. The year is 1881. A prospector named Aaron Winters lives in a crude shelter carved into the side of a rock face with his wife Rosie, and they have almost nothing. One day, a passing traveler named Harry Spiller tells Aaron about white crystals being mined across the border in Nevada. Crystals worth a small fortune. Aaron remembers seeing something similar near a salt marsh at Furnace Creek. Deposits that looked like cotton scattered across the cracked desert floor. That night, Aaron performs a test his visitor described. He holds a sample of the white powder over a flame, and the fire turns bright green. The green flame confirms what Aaron is holding as borax, a mineral known since ancient times as a purifier, a preservative, and a killer of biological growth. But Aaron's discovery is not the beginning of this story, not even close. Borax had been traveling the Silk Road since at least the 8th century, carried by traders from dried lake beds into Tibet across thousands of miles to reach goldsmiths, glassmakers, and healers in Persia and beyond. Ancient Egyptians used boron compounds in their mummification process to prevent fungal decay on sacred remains that were meant to last for eternity. Chinese alchemists documented its preservative properties in manuscripts dating back over 1,000 years, calling it a substance that repelled corruption. For centuries, this mineral was so valued that it commanded prices higher than silver in certain trade routes. And everywhere it went, civilizations used it for the same purpose, to destroy rot, to kill growth, and to preserve what mattered. Aaron sells his claim to a San Francisco businessman named William T. Coleman, who builds the Harmony Borax Works right there in the deadliest desert in North America. Coleman hires 40 men, most of them Chinese laborers, to gather the raw mineral from the valley floor and process it at the refinery. When the plant is running at full capacity, it produces 3 tons of pure borax every single day. To move that borax 165 miles across scorching terrain to the nearest railroad at Mojave, Coleman designs wagons so massive they require 18 mules and 2 horses to pull them. Each wagon carries 10 tons of pure borax, and the full rig weighs over 36 tons, stretching more than 160 ft long. From 1883 to 1889, these 20-mule teams haul 20 million pounds of borax out of Death Valley without losing a single animal or breaking a single wagon. That is 6 years of continuous operation through the hottest place on Earth with a perfect safety record. A feat so remarkable it became one of the most iconic images in American history. The borax reaches homes across America, and families begin using it for everything. By the early 1900s, the 20-mule team brand is one of the most recognized household products in the country. Stephen Mather, who would later become the first director of the National Park Service, designs the marketing campaign that puts borax in every American kitchen. Your great-grandmother almost certainly had a box of it under her sink. She used it on everything. Mold in the bathroom vanished overnight. Mildew on the basement walls disappeared and never came back. Woodshelves stayed clean for years without a single retreatment. She sprinkled it along baseboards to keep insects out, and mixed it into laundry water to kill fungal spores embedded in fabrics. She dissolved it in warm water to scrub the walls of the root cellar where she stored food through the winter. And the cost was almost nothing. A single box lasted months. No contractor, no special equipment, no recurring service fee, just a mineral and a scrub brush and knowledge that every woman in her generation considered common sense. But here is where the story takes a turn that should make you angry. Stay with me, because what comes next is the part they hoped you would never discover. This video is just the surface. I have collected everything the mold remediation industry does not want you to know. All inside the complete forbidden camping vault. The forbidden firecraft manual with techniques the outdoor industry classified as too dangerous for public knowledge. The complete off-grid blueprint that eliminates your dependence on systems designed to drain your wall at every single month. The Lost Rations cookbook with preservation methods that work without refrigeration and without power. The same methods your great-grandparents relied on. The 72-hour blackout checklist that covers exactly what to do when the grid goes down and everything shuts off. And the full guide to household compounds that cost pennies and replace hundreds of dollars in professional services. Over 10 guides in one place, no fluff, straight to the point. The link is in the description, but stay here. The video is just getting started. Now, let me give you the science, because what this powder does to mold is almost unfair. Mold thrives in acidic to neutral environments with a preferred pH range between 3 and 1/2 and 8. Borax has a pH of 9.3, making it highly alkaline, far outside the comfort zone of virtually every mold species that invades American homes. When you apply a borax solution to a moldy surface, you're not just wiping away what you can see, you're fundamentally altering the chemical environment of that entire surface. The alkaline shock disrupts the cellular membrane of the mold and interferes with the enzymes it needs to reproduce. And here is the part that separates borax from everything else on the market. It leaves behind an invisible alkaline residue that keeps working long after you walk away. That residue makes the surface permanently hostile to new spore colonization, creating a chemical barrier that mold simply cannot overcome. Bleach cannot do this, and the science proves it beyond any doubt. A study examining antifungal agents found that chlorine bleach only works on the surface of non-porous materials like glass and sealed countertops. On porous surfaces like drywall, wood, and grout, the chlorine molecule is too large to penetrate. Only the water component soaks through. And what does water do in a mold-contaminated environment? It feeds the very organism you're trying to kill. You scrub with bleach, the surface looks clean, and within weeks, the mold returns darker and deeper than before, and you are right back where you started. This is why so many homeowners feel trapped in an endless cycle of cleaning and recleaning the same bathroom walls and basement corners. Borax operates on a completely different mechanism. Researchers at Kahramanmaraş Imam University in Turkey published findings in 2022 confirming that boron compounds showed significant antifungal activity even at remarkably low concentrations. The study tested boron against multiple fungal species including Aspergilles, one of the most common and dangerous molds found in American homes, and the results showed clear inhibition of both spore germination and mycelial growth. In a separate study, Decia and colleagues found that more than 90% of Candida fungal strains could not survive in the presence of boric acid at standard concentrations. At higher concentrations, the effect was not merely fungusatic, meaning it stopped growth. It was fungicidal, meaning it killed the organism outright. And here is a number that should stop you cold. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that approximately 50% of homes in the United States have damp conditions capable of supporting mold growth. That is roughly 70 million households sitting in the perfect breeding ground for black mold right now while you are watching this video. A landmark assessment by researchers Fisk and Mudari estimated that 21% of all asthma cases in the United States are directly attributable to dampness and mold exposure inside the home. That translates to approximately 6 million people breathing in spores every single day, suffering from a condition that a $1 powder could help prevent. The World Health Organization issued formal guidelines in 2009, explicitly linking indoor mold exposure to respiratory disease. A meta-analysis of 33 separate studies found that living in a damp or moldy home raises the risk of developing asthma by 30 to 50%. These are not fringe claims from obscure corners of the internet. This is the EPA, the WHO, the CDC, and dozens of peer-reviewed medical journals all confirming the same devastating conclusion. Mold in your home is a documented health crisis affecting millions of American families. And a natural mineral that costs less than $1 per application has been scientifically shown to eliminate it at the cellular level. If you have made it this far, you already know more about mold than 99% of homeowners in this country. Subscribe and share this with someone whose family is breathing in spores right now and does not even know it. And remember, everything the industry buried is inside the complete vault. The link is in the description. Now, stay with me. The next part is the heaviest. So, if borax works this well, and the science is this clear, and the cost is this low, then why is no one talking about it? Why does every contractor who walks into your home recommend a $200 remediation job instead of pointing you to a $4 box of powder from the laundry aisle? Here is why the mold remediation services industry generates billions of dollars every single year. Conservative estimates from Grand View Research valued the global market at over $2 billion in 2023, projected to surpass $5 billion by 2030. Broader industry analyses that include assessment, restoration, insurance processing, and testing push that number above $5 billion annually. And that is just the global figure. The United States accounts for more than a third of the entire market. Now, look at the individual homeowner level. The average American pays between $1, $200, and $3, $750 for a single mold remediation job, according to data from Home Advisor and Angie. Severe cases involving black mold in walls and ductwork routinely exceed $10,000. Whole house remediation can cost $30,000 or more. And here is the mechanism that keeps this machine running. The industry does not profit from you solving the problem permanently. It profits from the problem coming back. Bleach is the standard recommendation precisely because it does not penetrate porous surfaces. The chlorine kills surface mold, but cannot reach the roots embedded in drywall, wood, and grout. Within weeks, the mold returns and the homeowner calls the contractor again. Another invoice, another $200, another cycle of dependency that benefits everyone except you and your family. You cannot patent borax. It is a naturally occurring mineral found in dried lake beds across the American West. It belongs to the earth. You cannot create a proprietary formula around it, and you cannot generate recurring revenue from a solution that eliminates the problem on the first application. And what cannot generate recurring revenue cannot sustain an industry built on repeat service calls. The entire economic model of professional mold remediation depends on your problem never truly being solved. Borax represents everything that model fights against. It is cheap, it is permanent, and it is available at any grocery store in America for under $5. Think about the economics for just one moment. If every homeowner learned that a $1 borax application could replace a $200 service call, the industry would lose the majority of its residential revenue overnight. That is hundreds of millions of dollars in annual billing gone because of a box sitting in the laundry aisle. The mold testing industry alone charges $150 to $300 just for an initial inspection, another $200 to $600 for air quality analysis. Then comes the remediation estimate, then the containment setup, then the HEPA filtration rental, then the post-remediation clearance test. Layer after layer of billable services stacked on top of a problem that a box of borax in a Saturday afternoon could solve in most homes. No television advertisement will ever suggest that a box from the laundry aisle can do what a $200 service call does. No remediation company will hand you a spray bottle of borax water and tell you to come back. Never. No insurance adjuster will recommend the $1 solution when the $300 invoice is what keeps the entire system turning. The information was not banned. It was not classified. It was simply omitted from every recommendation, every pamphlet, and every contractor estimate until an entire generation forgot what their grandparents knew by heart. I need to be honest with you about something because credibility matters more than clicks. Borax is not a magic bullet for every mold scenario. If your home has structural water intrusion, if there's an active leak feeding moisture behind your walls, borax will kill the mold on the surface. But the underlying moisture source must be addressed, or the problem will eventually return. For mold that has penetrated deep into structural drywall or subflooring, professional assessment may genuinely be the right call. But here's what nobody in the industry tells you. The EPA itself states that homeowners can safely handle mold cleanup on areas smaller than about 10 square feet, and that covers the vast majority of household mold problems. Bathroom tile, basement walls, window frames, kitchen grout, wooden shelving, concrete floors, laundry room corners, the areas where 90% of residential mold actually lives. For all of these, borax is not just an acceptable alternative to professional remediation. It is scientifically superior to bleach on porous surfaces because it actually prevents regrowth. Now, here's exactly what to do. Go to any grocery store or hardware store in America and buy a box of 20 Mule Team Borax from the laundry section. It costs about $4. That single box will last you dozens of applications, possibly an entire year of preventive treatment. Take 1 cup of borax powder and dissolve it in 1 gallon of hot water. Stir until the powder is completely dissolved. You now have a cleaning solution with a pH of 9.3 that mold cannot survive in. Pour some into a spray bottle for smaller areas like grout lines and window frames. For larger surfaces like basement walls or shower enclosures, use the full bucket and a stiff bristled scrub brush. Spray or apply the borax solution directly onto the moldy surface and let it sit for at least 15 to 20 minutes. The alkaline solution needs time to penetrate the surface and disrupt the mold at the cellular level. Do not rush this step. Scrub the area thoroughly with a brush until all visible mold is removed. Now, here is the critical step that makes borax fundamentally different from every other cleaner on the market. Do not rinse the surface. Leave the borax residue in place. That invisible alkaline film continues working as a protective barrier, making the surface hostile to any new spore that tries to colonize it. For bathroom tile and grout, apply the solution, scrub, leave the residue, and repeat monthly as preventive maintenance. For basement concrete walls, apply generously with a brush, scrub visible mold, and let the surface air dry with the residue intact. For wooden shelves and window frames, apply a lighter coat with a spray bottle. Wipe gently and allow to dry completely without rinsing. For washing machine gaskets where black mold loves to hide, soak a cloth in the borax solution and press it against the rubber seal for 20 minutes. Then scrub and wipe clean. One critical warning: never mix borax with vinegar. Borax is alkaline and vinegar is acidic. Mixing them cancels out the cleaning power of both and leaves you with a useless neutral solution. Wear rubber gloves and ensure good ventilation while you work. Borax is a natural mineral, but it can irritate skin with prolonged contact. Keep it away from children and pets until the treated surface has dried completely. A homeowner in Ohio reported that she had been paying a contractor $800 every 6 months to treat recurring bathroom mold. After a single borax application using this exact method, the mold did not return for over a year. Total cost of the borax she used was less than $50. Instead of $600 per year going to a remediation company, she spent less than $1 and the problem was solved. The contractor lost a customer, the mold lost its home, and her family stopped breathing in spores every single morning. That is the math the industry does not want you to calculate. $200-300 for an average professional remediation versus less than $1 for a borax application that prevents regrowth. And you already have a scrub brush in the closet. This knowledge did not disappear. It was waiting in the laundry aisle of every grocery store in America, printed right there on a box that your great-grandmother would have recognized instantly. For thousands of years, civilizations traded this mineral all across continents because they understood what it could do. Mule teams hauled 20 million pounds of it through the deadliest desert on Earth so that American families could protect their homes with pennies instead of fortunes. And then a billion-dollar industry decided your ignorance was more profitable than your health. But forgetting is not permanent. Seeds of knowledge do not die. They wait in dusty aisles and forgotten shelves for someone to pick them up again. You picked one up today. If this video opened something for you, subscribe and share it with every homeowner you know. Every like and every share preserves what they spent billions trying to erase.